Now, you might think that, that was enough. Okay, baptisms, sure. New members, sure. There you go, Mike. You might think that was enough, but it's not. We have so much to celebrate and be thankful for. And you may have noticed, wow, a bunch of us are wearing these shirts that all match. Why is that? Well, it turned out it all happened by accident. No. It started over a year ago. I've been here for over 2 years now as the lead pastor. And over a year ago, the foundations team, our leadership team, thank you very much. Our leadership team got together. And, okay, I'm going to be really blunt with everyone here. I wanted to come in and just change everything in the first month. But that's a good way no longer to be the pastor. So we'd spent time and we got to know each other. And over the last 2 years, a lot of things have happened. And one of the things that happened was over a year ago, right around a year ago, the foundations team, our leadership team, got together and we had a retreat. And one of the questions that came up was, what do we do and why? I mean, what is the point of Sundays? Right? What is the point of all of these ministries we're doing? You look at your bulletin and you see all these things in there and you're going, what's the point? What do we do and why? And so we started talking, we started brainstorming, and a lot of really good things came out of that influenced what we're going to talk about here in a second. And then back in January, a member of our foundations team, Victor, asked me, we were talking, and he said, it's hard for me to get a gauge on what we're talking about and what exactly we do. I need a chart, right? If anyone's an engineer or anyone likes to see it on paper, I need like a map. I need like a flow chart. I need a thing. What do we do? What does it look like? How could we map this out and make it clear? And so that got my brain spinning. And that got my brain spinning more and more and more. And I started thinking, I said, what is the important thing we want to communicate to one another and to our community? And it's these two questions. Who are we at Grace? And then what do we do? What does that mean? We have members, we have baptisms, we have all of these things, and that's great. But what does that mean? What does that define about us? And what do we do in our community and in our church? How can we map these things out and make it clear? And so in the 2 years I've been here, I've been really thinking about who are we as a church? One way to think about this is our DNA. What makes us who we are? What are some of our strengths? What defines us? What makes us a place where people want to become members? What makes us a place where people want to stay for 10, 15, 20, 30 years? It's what we want to communicate with our world. We want to share with our world. I mean, how many people have I talked to? And everyone says, I just came here and it just clicked and it just felt like home and it was so loving and kind and I just wanted to keep coming back. The things about who we are, our passion for relationships, our engagement in these ministries, our willingness to do all the things that God is calling us to do in our lives, those are the things we want to share with the world to let them know this is a place where that can happen, right? And so, what came out of that? Well, what came out of that is an answer to these questions. Who are we? That's what's on the back of these shirts. We are passionate. We are passionate. We are people who are passionate about, including but not limited to, the good news of Jesus Christ, the Bible, praise and worship, who God has made us to be, and the unique and collective gifts God has given us. We want to be people, and we want to share with the world our passions and who God has made you. You might remember a year ago, we talked about the difference between integration and assimilation. Assimilation is, hey, come and be like us. Integration is, no, bring your gifts, bring who you are, bring who God has made you to be, bring your story, bring all of who you are and become part of this community and be passionate about those things. And so we as a church are passionate people. We're also engaged. We are engaged with the Bible and what it teaches. We believe, as we talked about in community nights this past Wednesday, this is our authority. This is where we learn. This is how we learn how to love our neighbor. We are engaged with the Bible and what it teaches. But we're also engaged with the Holy Spirit's work in the world. What is God doing not just here, but out there? What is God doing in the life of your neighbor? What is God doing in your coworkers? What is God doing, wherever, in our city, in our state, in our region, in the world? We're also engaged with one another and God through prayer. We believe in community here. We believe in connection. We believe in fellowship. We believe in discipleship, right? We want to be engaged people with one another and with the world. And that's that last point, our community and culture. and this is an important point where I think God is taking Grace Community Covenant Church, is that we are not going to be a church that builds big walls, hides within our walls, and hides from the culture around us. We are going to engage with the culture where God has placed us. You want to use a simple, simple, cheesy phrase, we're going to bloom where we're planted. God has put us here in this side of town for this time, for this place, and we are going to engage with that. Doesn't mean we're always going to get along. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree, but we're not going to hide from it. And so in the future going forward at Grace, we want to be passionate. We want to be engaged with the world, bringing God's kingdom to earth. And then the last one is we want to be willing. We are, and we want to continue to love sacrificially, to help and serve those in need, to share life with those inside and outside the walls. I can't tell you how many non-churched, unchurched, unfaith people without a faith background or a church membership, always think of churches as we only care for people who are there. You only want people there to tithe and to give money, and those are the only people you care about. And that's just not true, is it? And so we want to make this expressly clear to us going forward as a church, that when people ask who we are, we have 3 words that help articulate, inform who we are and who we want to be more of. That we are passionate about the things we believe in and that God is calling us to, that we are engaged with one another in the world around us, and we are willing to do hard things and live like Jesus. To walk and talk with Jesus, to love our neighbors like Jesus, to lay our very lives down for the people around us. That's what we're willing to do, and that's what we're called to do. And so going forward, for those of us who are part of Grace Community Covenant Church, and we call this our home, when we think of who we are, these are the 3 words I want you to think of: that we are passionate, that we are engaged, and that we are willing. So what do we do then? What does this mean? How does this look? Well, that's pretty simple. There's 5 categories. Going forward, we're going to lump and categorize all of our ministries into these things. And some are going to be multiple. Some are going to be 2 or 3. We worship. What do we do at Grace? We worship. We worship God. We worship who God is and who God has made us to be. We're engaged in discipleship. The last how many months we've been talking about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus through the Gospel of Mark. We will be disciples, and that means Bible study. That means classes. That means prayer. That means learning from one another and this book together. We will serve. We will serve. We will have outreach opportunities. We will have ministry opportunities. There are currently people right now grilling hamburgers and hot dogs and setting up tables and setting up EGs and serving, so that as soon as we're done here, you all can go out and enjoy a nice lunch and fellowship and get to know these people who were baptized and became new members. We will serve one another. We will care for one another. And that's the last one, care. We're going to help each other. We are not alone. Baptism, new membership. If you have a need, we want you to let us know about that need. If you're stressed out and have a busy week and you're a single parent or you're alone and you can't make a meal, let us know. We want people to bring you a meal. If you can't get to church because of something, or you need a ride to the doctor, if you need anything, we want to care for you. But we can't know unless you tell us. We are willing to care. We want to care. And we want to be people who care. And then lastly, fellowship. Fun. Having meals together. Getting together. Regularly, not just when it's convenient for our schedule, but prioritizing fun. How silly does that sound that we have to do this? But we do, because we're busy, because we got stuff, we got other things. But the celebration and joy you feel this morning, the things we feel looking at people being baptized and publicly professing and members joining this church, fills me with so much joy. It reminds me, no, I have to make this a priority. To fellowship with my brothers and sisters in Christ, because I can be a little grumpy sometimes. And so what do we do at Grace? We believe authentic communal worship. We believe discipleship by following Jesus' teaching and example. We will serve our community, care for each other, and fellowship by having fun and sharing meals are all essential what it means to be a church. That's it. We're simplifying all this stuff. In the past, we've had no, grow, go, and we've had these spiritual commitments and all these things. We want to simplify what we communicate to the world. Who are we? We are passionate, engaged, and willing. What do? We do worship, discipleship, service, care, and fellowship. A great example is what we're doing today. This is worship. This is service. This is fellowship. This is discipleship. What we do on Wednesday nights and community nights, we gather together here at 5:30 on Wednesday nights. We have a meal together, and we study the Bible and talk about our beliefs. What is that? That is fellowship. That is discipleship. And that is worship. All of these things are kind of get mangled together, but this is what we do. This is what we believe in. And my good friend Sue came up with a wonderful diagram to help you if you need, that I really like using. Who are we? It's the core of who we are. We are passionate, engaged, and willing. And what do? We disciple, we worship, we fellowship, we serve, and we care. And all those things overlap, and it becomes a jumbled mess. But if this is helpful for you to look at, think about it like this. Which of these 5 are you engaged in, and which of these 5 are you not engaged in? It's my hope that each one of us here at church going forward would bring our gifts, our calling, the things we're passionate about, the things we're engaged in the world around us, into this place to share with others and be engaged in all 5 of these categories. So in some ways, you could use this as motivation. Is there an area on this thing that you're not engaged with, that you're not fellowshipping with other believers here at the church, that you're not engaged in discipleship ministries, that you're not serving or caring for others? Maybe you need to get involved in service here at the church. Maybe you need to get involved in service at ICS or Gap Ministries or things we partner with. It doesn't matter where, but are you doing these things? Because I truly believe this, friends, that if we do these things, if we bring our passions, the things we're engaged with, and we're willing to do difficult things, that we'll be able to encompass all of these things, and before we know it, this culture, this community will become deeper and stronger, and celebrations like this will become a lot more common because people's lives will be changed, because this is what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. And as many of you know and could give testimony, you could walk up here and give testimony of how being a disciple of Jesus has completely changed your life. And there's one more thing about this that I want to share. This is not just for us, but it's for our neighbors. When most people check out a church, some of you are new and have recently become visiting and other things. When most people check out a church, they check out the website. And when most people check out a website, they give it 2 to 4 clicks. They check out the title page, they check out 1 or 2 things, maybe they look at the staff, maybe they look at the beliefs, they click 2 or 3 times, and then they move on to another church. And either they choose to come visit or they move on to something else. And so what's happened is, since I've been thinking about these things, and these things are spinning around in my head, and we want to share this with you about where we're going and how we're going to do this, our wonderful tech team of Sue and Charlie were also working out with our web service provider, and they were updating all the things we do in our website. And so now we had this whole new template for a website that we can input all of these things in and reorganize our whole website around these things, so that when someone comes for the first time and Googles a church near them and they click on it and it says, this church, they click on it, these 2 things are prevalent. These 2 things are front and center. Who are they and what do they do? And so they can know who we are, what we do, and they can come join us. So we're simplifying a lot of these things. And we want to communicate these sorts of things, not just for us in-house to know these things, but then to share it with our neighbor. And so Charlie, Lahardy, and Sue began doing this work and working really hard, by the way. Thank you so much, both of you. And yeah. And so not only do we have baptisms and new members and a new vision and mission on how we think about who we are and what we do, but we also have a brand new website for us to interact with and do these things that will communicate all these. And they're going to share that with us now.